Happy October, folks, and welcome back to #AskGSM here today. 99 videos and a bitch ain't one. Yes, we are quickly closing in on the monumental, historic, epic 100th episode next week. I'm not really planning on doing anything special for it. Just try to send in as many questions as you can. I was trying to think of, a couple of weeks ago, I was thinking of, what can we do for the 100th episode? Send in 100 questions, answer 100 questions. I have no idea. That'd probably be a very long video, a lot longer than an hour. So we probably won't do that. But still, it's an awesome milestone. Thank you guys so much. As they always say, you guys are the greatest and are the reason this show has gone on for as long as it has for the last 2.5 years. And as always, if you want to send in a question, you can do so by tweeting me on Twitter at WrestleRant, finding me on Facebook, or on Twitter, be sure to include the hashtag AskGSM on Facebook at facebook.com/Graham.Jason.Matthews. Leave a comment I usually put up on Sunday nights. I didn't last night because I was so busy. I'll get to that in a minute. Or you can leave a comment on the very wall, on the wall itself, and I'll be sure to include it in next week's video. And also, you can leave a comment on this video, and I'll be sure to include it in next week's edition. So, a pretty busy weekend, a stacked weekend over the last couple days. We had the MSG special on Saturday, which I enjoyed. Bound for Glory last night, which I enjoyed. And then Raw tonight, which I will be in attendance for in the TD Garden in Boston. I'm pumped. Wearing my Dean Ambrose Unstable t-shirt. So if you're going to be there, try to find me. I'll be on Twitter. I'll be trying to live tweet. So I'll be there around like 7 o'clock for the Superstars taping, get some merch, get some food, take our seats, RJ and myself, and we'll be watching Raw from the TD Garden live and in person. Can't wait for it. Let's get down to this week's questions. Hector S. from the YouTube. If you could change 3 things from WWE's past, what would you change? This, I thought, was a great question. Now, because it's a great question, I don't like answering questions like these because it takes so much thought. You know, if I really sat down for a couple days maybe and thought, okay, how many things would I change from WWE history? I'd probably come up with a lot more than just 3 things. But off the top of my head, when I saw this question earlier this morning, and I thought, what are 3 things I would change? Right now, Vince came to me, he called me up and said, what would you change from WWE's past? I put down not doing the invasion. I would not do the invasion from 2001. I would have kept WWE or WWF at that time and WCW 2 separate brands. I would not have merged them. I would not have done, maybe down the line, would have done WWF versus WCW, but I think transforming SmackDown into what later become with the brand split, I would have done that with WWF and WCW. Obviously, they changed their minds after the Booker T. Buff Bagwell match bombed in the main event of Raw that one week, so they decided against it, but I would have done that instead, because killing WCW, I feel like, buying it out was one thing, but the end of the Monday Night Wars was going to happen eventually, but I feel like they alienated those WCW fans. After WCW died, so did the fans didn't die, but they just went away. They stopped watching wrestling. It's not like WWE's ratings went through the roof. If anything, the ratings went down because people weren't going back from show to show. They just didn't want to watch Raw anymore, so they just stopped tuning in. They just stopped watching wrestling. I know a lot of people like that. My cousin was like that. He was pro WCW, and he's not a wrestling fan anymore because after the Monday Night Wars were over, he just stopped watching. So I would change that. The screw job feels like an obvious one, but all the bad blood with Bret Hart and the way that he went out, that being his final, excluding all the matches in recent years, I say. The screw job, it was his final WWE match, real wrestled WWE match. And just everything that went down with it, and that went down along with it, and the way that he ended his career in WCW in anticlimactic fashion, the thing with Goldberg and everything else, just, if that never happened, I can only imagine how much longer he would have been with WWE for, and being a part of, a bigger part of the Monday Night Wars, and being on the WWF side, mixing it up with Stone Cold and The Rock and Shawn Michaels and The Undertaker and everyone else that the company had to offer in their later stages in the years to come. So I would do that, the screw job, not doing the invasion, and also finally ending the streak. Now, I know Brock Lesnar benefited from it at WrestleMania 30. He's like a monster. He's on an all-new stratosphere now after ending the streak at WrestleMania 30. But still, I feel like that's something that should not have been done. There's going to be a lot of viewpoints on this. I know a lot of people disagree. I know a lot of people do agree. But I personally would have never ended the streak, or at least the way that they did. Brock Lesnar was the right guy. I accept that now. But if you wanted to benefit an up-and-comer, I don't know, just with the build to that WrestleMania, or at least for that Taker-Lesnar match, which sucked, and their match at SummerSlam was a lot better. Their match at Hell in a Cell should be a lot better than their WrestleMania match. It was not a good match. They got the pop. They got the shock value. I understand that. It shocked the hell out of me. The most shocking moment in wrestling history. But still, I mean, I just didn't think they should have done it that way. So ending the streak, screw job, and the invasion angle from 2001. Great question. Second question, name 5 Ring of Honor guys that you would want to see in WWE. Adam Cole, I think, is a given. I think he had a WWE tryout maybe a year or two ago. He screams WWE to me. He feels like he should be in that company right now. But he's so young. He's got so many years ahead of him that I could see him going over, in a couple of years from now if he wants to, because he's so young. He's got his whole career ahead of him, and there's still plenty of time to jump over to WWE. But Adam Cole's a guy, even, just the way that he carries himself outside the ring with what he wears and what he says and the great talker that he is, both in and out of the ring, is exactly what WWE would be looking for in a performer. Although I know he doesn't have the size, he's not this big jacked up guy, but he's a great wrestler, he's a great character, he's an amazing performer, and he's an amazing spokesperson for Ring of Honor, and I think he could do the same for WWE. Jay Lethal, I feel like, is also, and I don't know, I feel like it would be a great pick for WWE, a great pickup. But the other thing too, with a lot of the guys in this list, I just don't feel like WWE would use him right. Jay Lethal, spent X amount of years in TNA for as long as he was there, and I don't feel like they ever really utilized him right too. Maybe in flashes and just in spurts, like the moments that he had with Ric Flair were great, but then his career kind of down spiraled after that in TNA. So, Jay Lethal, though, I don't know if they would have him. I know they're interested, but I know they're only interested because he's getting all this success. Where was their interest in Jay Lethal years ago when he was in TNA? It's just because he's successful now, but he'd be a great guy to have in WWE or at least in NXT. AJ Styles, I've said before, I feel like would be an awesome pickup for WWE. I just don't feel like they'll do it. And I know the age is one thing, but Kevin Owens, Finn Balor, Hideo Itami, all those guys are in their mid-30s, and they're all in WWE and NXT, so I don't really think it makes that big of a difference, but I know the age is one factor. Even if it's just for a one-off, just like Jushin Thunder Liger at the most recent TakeOver special, that guy came in for a one-off match against Tyler Breeze. Why can't they do something similar with AJ Styles down the line? That would be amazing. The guy's got so many years left in him. I know he's been in the wrestling business for so long, but he's still at the top of his game. He's probably doing the best work of his wrestling career right now than he ever has before, which is crazy to think about. He's just reaching the pinnacle. He hasn't even reached his peak yet in wrestling, which is scary. But yeah, AJ Styles, would love to see him in WWE. I'm going to count this as a 2-for-1 pick here. The Kingdom. I know Kaz and Daniels, I would probably have said the Addiction from Ring of Honor, but I don't know. I just see something in the Kingdom. Matt Taven I've always been a huge fan of. I remember he was one of the first wrestlers I ever saw at a wrestling event in May of 2009, the first ever indie event that I went to, and I think he was just starting out his career at that period in time. So I kind of grew up watching him on the indie scene, and he's come so far. He's a champion of Ring of Honor in New Japan. He's doing that whole thing. It's great. A part of the Kingdom. They're doing the best work of their career. Mike Bennett, too, is also a great hand, and Maria, I feel like they could have done a lot more with her in WWE, not as a wrestler, but as a personality, not like a dumb backstage interview, which she did for a time, which was entertaining, but it was a complete waste of her talents. In the managerial role, what they almost did with Dolph Ziggler back in 2009 would have been great. What she's doing now for the Kingdom, she could have done for Dolph Ziggler back in 2009, but they didn't know what they had. They didn't know how to use her, so it was kind of a waste. But yeah, the Kingdom, and finally Silas Young, I've talked about here before in the show, here on hashtag AskGSM. Silas Young, I think, is a great all-around talent. He's got the look. I love the, I'm all pissed off all the time, and I'm a real man's man, stuff like that. The whole gimmick, I think, is great. I don't know if WWE would use it, but even if they don't, he's got the size. He's very good in the ring. He knows his character. He's great, so I feel like he'd be a great pickup too. Not as much as the other people I just mentioned, but Adam Cole, Jay Lethal, AJ Styles, 2-for-1 pick in the Kingdom, and Silas Young. I would love to see all of those guys in WWE. I would be surprised to see more than 2 of those guys, more than 1 of them in WWE. But Adam Cole, I feel like, is a lock. The rest of them are just kind of wishful thinking. The first KFC, also from YouTube, would Braun Strowman versus The Undertaker be a good idea for a match at WrestleMania 32? I don't think so. I mean, we hear these kind of rumors every single year. Like, I remember hearing rumors back in 2012, 2013, when Ryback was still getting pushed, at a main event level, and they were saying, oh, we're going to put him against Undertaker next year at WrestleMania. I don't think so. The match probably would not have been good. Ryback is not a threat to Undertaker at all. I love Ryback, but would he have been a threat? Absolutely not. Either as a babyface or as a heel, wouldn't have made sense. Same thing with Braun Strowman. I feel like they are building him up, but they're not building him up to be like the next world champion or the next main event star. I feel like they're just building him up to mean something when someone eventually takes him down, whether it be a Roman Reigns or a John Cena, God forbid, but I feel like it's going to be a Roman Reigns or whoever. They're going to build him up to be a monster and just kind of benefit the next guy. Like a Rusev, you know? I don't think it really benefited John Cena, but they built up Rusev just to kind of put over the next guy, so it meant something when he was eventually beaten. You know, now he's not doing anything. I feel like Braun Strowman will be in the same boat. Unfortunately, I haven't seen really much of his in-ring skills to kind of really determine how great he is of a worker. But as a character so far, in the limited role that he has on television, I love it. He has a great look, a very intimidating look, and he's well protected in the trio of Luke Harper, Bray Wyatt, and himself. So, but I don't think that'd be a good match. So Undertaker at this point in his career should be used for main event level guys. Now I know he faced Bray Wyatt this past year. Bray Wyatt, in my mind, is a main event level guy, but that whole feud was a complete waste of time. They haven't acknowledged it since. Bray Wyatt didn't benefit. Taker didn't benefit. Yeah, he got a win, but other than that, even if Wyatt won, I don't know how big of a difference it would have made. I feel like they should just not have done that feud at all. If Taker wasn't going to be on TV before or after the match, then what was the goddamn point? It was a good match, and the match didn't suck as much as Lesnar versus Taker did the year before. But I just don't feel like... I just don't understand what the point of that match was. If Wyatt didn't benefit, Taker disappeared again. They didn't bring it up when he came back earlier this summer, so why bother, you know? So yeah, no, I would not want to see that match at WrestleMania next year. Taker should be facing... And I mean, with it being in Texas too and possibly being his final WrestleMania, I feel like there is next to no chance he faces Braun Strowman at WrestleMania 32. I'm going with the main event level guy like... not Lesnar. I think that they're done after Hell in a Cell. John Cena would be great. Cena or Sting are my top two picks. I don't know who else you put against him. The Rock maybe, but I don't really want to see Rock and Taker. It would be cool, but I'd rather see either Sting or John Cena against Taker at WrestleMania instead. The second question, do you see Ryback, on the subject of Ryback, ever becoming WWE World Heavyweight Champion? Again, I'm a huge Ryback fan. Would love to see it. I just don't think it will. So yeah, I feel like he's going to be, I feel like he's perfect in the role that he's in right now as a upper mid-card babyface, picking up wins more often than not. The new Ultimate Warrior. Now I know Ultimate Warrior was a former WWE champion, but that was only because the guy at that time, Hulk Hogan, was taking time off for a movie. Had that not happened, would Warrior become champion? I have no idea, but I feel like Warrior was so popular. From the moment that he arrived to the moment he won that title, they really had no choice but to put the belt on him when Hogan went away for a while. Cena's not going away. It's not like if he films a movie, we're in trouble. We need a new guy. We have all these other main event stars. Like Cena is going away in a couple months, but he's not even at the main event level. Right now it's Seth Rollins and all these other part-timers. I mean, maybe down the line, never say never. I mean, maybe there's a chance they get enough faith back in Ryback to, be a main event level guy again. I have no idea, but I feel like even if he doesn't become world champion, which he doesn't need to be, he's perfect in the role. Maybe if there was a world heavyweight championship on SmackDown, but I digress. I feel like he is perfect in the role that he's in right now as this upper mid-card babyface. He's over. He has good matches. He can't carry a 20-minute main event on a pay-per-view. I know he did back in late 2012, but that's because he was facing guys like CM Punk and The Shield and John Cena and all these other main event guys. But I feel like he's perfect where he is right now. He's over. He's got a good catchphrase. He's got a good gimmick. He's awesome as a babyface. He's got good mic work and promo skills and in-ring ability, whatever. Perfect in the role that he's in right now. Don't want to see him further down the card. I would love to see him up higher, but there's really no reason to fix what ain't broken, I guess. I mean, like a Cesaro, I feel like can be a world champion. Ryback, not so much, but I feel like where he is right now is a great place for him. Next question from Frank Shear 15. Should Carlito return to WWE? Should he? I don't know. It would be cool. No pun intended. But I spit in the face of people who don't like to be cool. But yeah, I popped big when he came back to the Hall of Fame a couple years ago. I think it was the night before WrestleMania 30 and trashed the company. Not like, oh, WWE sucks. But he's like, I think I've talked more in this one induction speech than I have in my entire WWE career. Or something like that. It was so funny. Super funny. But what else would they have for him? At this point, Carlito's time was 10 years ago. I would say the same thing for any of those batch of guys if they were to bring him back. A Matt Hardy, MVP, Mr. Kennedy, all these guys that could have, Shelton Benjamin, would I have loved to see them as a world champion? I mean, I know Matt Hardy's world heavyweight champion in TNA right now, but TNA and WWE are two very different things. Huge Matt Hardy mark. Glad he won the world title, but it's TNA. He cannot be world champion in WWE in 2015 with all the other up-and-coming stars that we have. But anyway, I digress. Going back to your question, yeah, Carlito, like, I'm not saying he's going to be a world champion, but if he was to come back, they'd probably put him with the Matadors. And those guys are losers. They lose all the time, so therefore they are losers. And I don't know if it would be with the masks or they would do a cologne gimmick. I have no idea. Again, would be cool, that time pun intended, but I just don't feel like they're going to... No wonder. I mean, I feel like they did offer him a contract, but he turned it down reportedly because it wasn't enough. And I don't blame him at all. Like, why would you come back if the money's not good, if he's happy on the indies, and he's probably in great shape now? And there's a reason for that. He was just not motivated to do anything in WWE, either because they weren't doing anything with him, or he had an attitude issue, an attitude problem. I have no idea. That's never really been confirmed. But they're not going to do anything with him now. If they didn't do anything with him 4 or 5 years ago when he was still with the company, they're not going to push him now. They'd probably only push him at a certain level, like an undercard character with the Matador, so why even bother? Again, would pop for it. I just don't see it happening. And his second question, are there any current WWE superstars you feel would be a good fit for Lucha Underground? Now, I'm very excited to announce, I mean, this was made public weeks ago, but super excited to hear about Lucha Underground coming back for a second season. Loved Lucha Underground. If you're not already watching it, be sure to check it out. I'm not saying, watch it right now or you're not a wrestling fan, but it's cool. I mean, I've done videos about it in the past here on the channel. But Lucha Underground is the perfect alternative. It is the ideal alternative to WWE, to TNA, even to Ring of Honor. They have great wrestling, some great storylines. They're not for everyone, granted, but if you give it a try, I'm sure there's something on the show that you will like. But anyway, going back to your question, though. Any current WWE superstars that feel like could be a good fit for that company? And it's hard to say, too. They don't really have, it's not like, all the IWC smarks. No, we have Alberto Del Rio over there. We have fucking John Morrison, Marty from Tough Enough in 2011. We have Eva Lise, another two people from Tough Enough, and Matt Cross, also from that season of Tough Enough. We have so many different misfit characters, so many, like, you would never guess, you would never even imagine them being in Lucha Underground, a promotion like that. It's not like a strictly Lucha Libre based promotion. A lot of their performers are Lucha Libre wrestlers, or work in Mexico. But you don't have to be. Like we've seen with Del Rio and all these other Tough Enough characters, these Tough Enough guys and girls. So I put down here Cesaro. I feel like he'd be a great pick down there. I mean, especially a great fit for Lucha Underground, considering WWE is not doing anything with him. They refuse to push him. Either Vince is stubborn or whoever. He was on Superstars last week, despite being so over. I mean, he's still over, but he was on such a roll a couple months ago, right after those matches with John Cena. He was in the main event of goddamn fucking Monday Night Raw, and now he's just pushed back to Superstars, and he got squashed against Big Show a couple weeks ago. Like, what the fuck? But yeah, Morrison, I feel like he and the next guy, Dolph Ziggler, who I also think would be a great fit for Lucha Underground, WWE has never really done anything with them. I mean, they've always had those start and stop pushes, like people will just stop caring. And it's gotten to the point where I lose more and more faith. I mean, I want to be positive. I want to, when it comes to these guys, I want to think that, okay, there will be a time when they will get pushed, but WWE just gives you no incentive to do so. When they push them at a certain level, they're in the main event of Raw, they've got titles, they're being pushed, they're over, and they just rip the rug right from underneath them. And they just don't follow up, and they're right back to where they started. They're right back at square one. So Ziggler and Cesaro, add in their in-ring ability, but they can mix it up with all the guys in Ring of Honor. And John Morrison, a perfect example of a guy that WWE could have done a lot more with, but they never did. In the final years that he was there, 2009, 2010, 2011, he was booked like shit for the most part, and he was having the best run of his wrestling career right now in Lucha Underground. So I feel like Cesaro and Dolph Ziggler could have a similar effect if they were to jump over when their respective contracts expire. And finally, this one's a little bit of a weird choice, but I put down Zack Ryder. Now, I'm not just saying that because I'm a broski, I'm a Zack Ryder mark, and I am. But, I look at the people that are in Lucha Underground, like a Marty the Moth, Martin Casillas, or whatever his name was from Tough Enough. Great dude. I interviewed him a couple years ago. He's got this moth gimmick, but the gimmicks, no matter how goofy they are, like they have dead people walking around, they have people dying and getting eaten by like monsters and stuff, but it works within that universe. Now, I'm not saying Ryder, if he was to go there, he'd be doing the woo-woo-woo gimmick, but I mean, I don't know if it's copyrighted or not by WWE. I have no idea. Probably not. But let's say he does not have the woo-woo-woo stuff. people would still respect him as a performer. I know he's kind of getting up there, but so is John Morrison and Del Rio. Like, who the fuck cares about age in Lucha Underground? But the guy's a good enough worker that he can get people behind him. I don't feel like he's going to be in the Lucha Underground title picture. But we have like Angelico, who is amazing. But I'm trying to think of some other people. Like, they have a few other American talents that weren't really anything in other promotions, like in WWE or in TNA or wherever. But they go to Lucha Underground and have a career resurgence. And I feel like Zack Ryder could experience something similar if he were to go over there when he's done with WWE, whenever that may be. Moving on to the Twitter questions now. At E13A, their question was, and this was from last week, couldn't get to it, but his question was, did you hear Stone Cold Steve Austin and Wade Killer's analysis and praise of Banks versus Bayley's NXT TakeOver Brooklyn match? I did. I listened to all the Austin podcasts, the podcasts, the uncensored ones, the family-friendly ones, all of them. I love his podcast, JR's, Jericho's, whatever. All the wrestler ones for the most part, but I digress. I loved it. I thought it was great. I know they talked about it. It's a few weeks back. You might have to go back like maybe even a month. I think it was a while ago. It was either a month ago or 3 weeks ago or whatever. But they broke down TakeOver, and Austin was praising this match. Said it was the best thing on the entire show, and called Sasha Banks one of the best goddamn women performers in the business today, which is not a lie at all, which is huge coming from Stone Cold. And she also got praised over the weekend, I believe, by Kurt Angle, which is also huge praise coming from one of the best wrestlers, period, of all time in professional wrestling history. Performers, wrestlers, whatever you want to call them. But yeah, the Sasha Banks is great. I know that's not your question, but if she's getting that much praise, she's something special. And Bayley is no slouch either. I feel like she's a great talent, has an amazing connection with the crowd, great in-ring worker. But I said this before. I don't know if I said it in this forum, but I've said it on Facebook and on Twitter. But Bayley and Banks from that TakeOver special, man, I'm telling you, I feel like that was the single best wrestling match I have ever seen live. Greatest moment would probably go to Jericho's return, which I talked about in last week's video blog, cheap plug. But the greatest match I've ever seen live would have to be that one. And I'm covering all the Raws that I've been to, that TakeOver special, that's covering SummerSlam that I went to a couple weeks ago. Best match that I've ever seen live. And that's covering all the indie events that I've been to too, TNA, everything. 30 plus shows that I've been to. Best wrestling match I've ever seen. I've already watched it back twice on the network, in addition to the once when I was there live, and then 2 other times in the subsequent weeks. And I never do that. That's a testament to how great of a match that was. So I thought it was great when they were talking about it. And Wade Keller is also a great guest, is a great partner for Austin on his podcast. They really kind of get down to the nitty and gritty of the matches and the pay-per-views and the Raws and whatever. He's a great guest. I feel like he's one of the better wrestling analysts out there right now that kind of guest host these wrestler podcasts. The second question from at E13A, their question was, push, repackage, or keep released? CM Punk, Kurt Angle, and Jeff Hardy. Really tough question, and you know me too well, because those are the 3 guys I want most to see back in WWE. I did that whole video a couple weeks ago here in the channel. The 3 people I would love to see back in WWE, 1, 2, and 3. I feel like it was 1 was Angle, 2 was Jeff Hardy, 3 was CM Punk. So, and 4 was McMahon, Shane McMahon, 5 was Scott Steiner. So you know me too well. So that's a really tough question. You could really go any other way. I mean, there's really no right or wrong answer to any of these kind of questions. And I love these questions, by the way. Continue to send them in. Push, repackage, and release. And in his case, it's keep release, because they're all, people I would love to see back, and they're not currently with the company. But I would say push Hardy. Now, I say push Hardy because the guy is so over with the kids. Even if he was to come back today, and 5-year-old Billy Hughes has no idea who Jeff Hardy is, he's going to see him on TV, see the face paint, see the mannerisms going like that and doing everything, and he's going to love Jeff Hardy instantly. And he's going to want to buy his t-shirt. I want to buy the mask, Mom. I want to buy the t-shirt. I want to buy the armbands. I want to buy everything Jeff Hardy. So I feel like he's going to be a huge draw. Even, 6 or 7 years removed from when he was last with the company, people will still love him. He's going to be over like Rover. So bring him back, and I would push him towards the top. I mean, repackage Punk or Angle. I mean, I don't know who you would repackage. It's hard to say who you would repackage because they're not currently with the company. But I'm only going with Angle. For keep released, I said CM Punk. Now, I say that because I'm a huge CM Punk fan, my favorite wrestler of all time, next to William Regal. And, of course, Christian and all those guys. My second favorite wrestler of all time, next to William Regal. But between Angle and Punk, I would keep Punk released because I've been a fan of WWE for 7 years now, and Punk was there for almost all of them. Do I want to see have one more match? Absolutely. But I don't know if he would be. I think he's happy doing what he's doing right now in UFC and the comic books and whatever else he's doing right now. I feel like he's done. He has. If he never wrestles another match, that's fine. Angle, I feel like, has to wrestle another match in WWE. Punk had his final match in WWE. It was not a great match in the Rumble in 2014, but he had his final WWE match. Angle's final match would be a match in like TNA against Eric Young last night at Bound for Glory. You know, he deserves so much better than that. And I feel like Angle, both of them will go in the Hall of Fame at some point, even if Punk comes back. I've said this time and time again, Punk will be back. Maybe not next week or next month or next year, maybe not in the next decade, but he will be back for a Hall of Fame induction. Doesn't have to wrestle another match if he doesn't want to. Doesn't really matter. Angle, I really want to see one more match from in WWE at WrestleMania. If it was on fucking Superstars, I don't care. I just want to see one more match from the Olympic gold medalist in WWE. So I would repackage Angle for whatever that means, but more so just to keep Punk released because he's happy, he's doing what he's doing. He closed off his career in WWE. He's done it all. Really want to see one more match, of course, one last match with CM Punk, but Angle, I think, is more of a priority, or at least for me anyway. At DaltonRod1, who's your favorite wrestler of all time? Just answered this, William Regal. He got me into wrestling, so therefore he is my favorite wrestler of all time. Next is CM Punk, Christian, and then so on and so forth from there. His second question, which faction is your favorite of all time? So there's a few different answers. I've gone on the record in the past saying the Nexus, only because I just loved. 2010 was not a great year for WWE on the whole, but that summer, though, with the Nexus before they got buried at SummerSlam was good by John Cena, but it was great. I love the Nexus angle, love the theme, love what they stood for, love the idea of something new and fresh with the NXT rookies. I thought it was great up until they lost at SummerSlam, but I was still a fan after that. So I would say the Nexus, but other honorary mentions go to the Shield, if you can classify them as a stable. I would, but I would put them on the list. And also the NWO, of course. I was not around at that period in time when they were hot in 1996 through 2000 or 99, wherever in WCW, whenever it was, whenever they ended. But I was such a huge NWO mark, watching back clips from WCW, of WWE, everything they accomplished. And just a theme song. Please excuse my poor singing, but I love the NWO theme song, though. At Headliner 5, his question was, what did you think of the WWEMSG special overall, and were you there live? I wish. That's on my wrestling bucket list, to go to a show in Madison Square Garden. Now, I probably would if I was home in Connecticut. I'm at school right now, of course. That's why I'm going to Raw tonight in Boston. But yeah, I probably would, because it's not that I live close, but it's so much easier to get to New York City than it is to get there from here, and I'm in school, so it's a lot harder. It was Parents' Weekend anyway, so even if I really, really wanted to go, wouldn't be able to make it anyway. My family was here over the weekend. But yeah, I do want to go to a show in Madison Square Garden at some point. They're going to MSG the day after Christmas, I think, on the Saturday, the 26th. So I'm going to try to get there for that. Even though it's a house show, I just want to go to a WWE show in MSG. So I really want to go there for that. But no, I was not there live. But what was my overall impression of the show? I thought it was good. My review is up now on nextdaywrestling.net. Cheap plug for you. But yeah, I enjoyed it. I didn't think it was an amazing show. Was it better than Japan? I enjoyed the Japan show a little more, but I love the idea of just more original content on the network. That's all we need. I mean, that and the archive stuff too, but more original content on the network, whether it be Table for Three or Unfiltered with Renee Young, Corey Graves' show, the interviews with Eric Bischoff, the live house shows. All this stuff is great. WWE is finally doing right by the WWE network. I love it. So, yeah, I thought it was a good show, and people that were complaining about, you know, the interference in the main event, or the Dudleys not winning the belt, or, I don't know, all the lack of significance when it comes to storyline stuff, I wasn't really mad or disappointed or shocked. It's a house show. You know, it was a house show that was taped for the network. They're not going to change up their plans just because it was broadcast live on the network. Maybe they will. Maybe they did that for the Japan show, but for this one, it was cool to see Lesnar just beat Big Show's ass on that show. The main event was entertaining. The rest of the show was good. Owens and Jericho I enjoyed. So I thought it was a good show. You got to keep in mind that it was a house show at the end of the day and wasn't supposed to be like this major pay-per-view and all these marquee matches. We saw a lot of stuff we've seen before, but you know what? For a house show on a Saturday night, I thought it was good. And the MSG atmosphere definitely added to it too. Next question, at Cody Collier 37. His question was, what do you think about was the most underrated match on the MSG Live special and why? I mean, there wasn't really many underrated matches, I would say. I mean, even this match I wouldn't call underrated, but if there was any match in the show that was underrated, it'd probably be Owens and Jericho. I thought it was a good match. People didn't love it. A lot of people were entertained by it. I thought it was very good. I think it was a great match, but I thought it was very good. It coincided with Jericho's 25th anniversary in the wrestling business, which was also really cool. And also, I mean, that might be the final time ever that we see Owens and Jericho in WWE. I thought it was dumb. I mean, again, it's a house show, but I thought it was stupid they had Jericho do the whole Shield thing and Night of Champions. And I understand they're not doing the follow-up because Jericho's busy right now with Fozzy and whatever, but he comes out like a babyface on this show, despite teasing that he might be going heel at Night of Champions. So that was kind of dumb. But still, I thought it was a very well-wrestled match, and it might be the final time ever. Hopefully not that we see Owens and Jericho face off, but I thought it was a very good match for the Intercontinental title. And Owens picks up a good win, too, so win-win all around. Next question from Matt Swagzio. His question was, are you going to Raw tomorrow, and if so, what would you like to see happen? So I answered that at the top of the video, at the start of the video. I will be going to Raw tonight in Boston in the TD Garden. As I said earlier, we'll be wearing my Dean Ambrose Unstable t-shirt, my Dean Ambrose sweatshirt, going all unstable out for this show tonight. So if you see me, feel free to tweet me, catch up with me. I would love to talk to you guys if you will be in attendance for Raw tonight. I will not be on TV. We're up in like the cheap seats, but I just want to be there. I'm the kind of person that doesn't care where my seats are. Would be nice if they were closer, but I'm not paying that much money. I just want to be there live for it. But what am I looking forward to, or what do I hope to happen? The U.S. Open should be interesting because now I've been reading reports, as many of you have, I'm sure as well, about how Cena will be taking time off in a couple weeks. So what does that mean for the U.S. Championship? We'll find out tonight. The thing with New Day last week, I'm sure, was just a one-off, so I don't think they continue that tonight by having him face Kofi or Big E or whatever. I feel like tonight will be the night they kick off Cena's next feud. Maybe they were just doing a placeholder until the MSG special on Saturday, so tonight they'll kick off his next big feud. I'm excited to see who it will be, even if it's just a U.S. Open match. I'm hoping it's going to be some NXT guy or a debut or whatever. It's going to be nice. We're in Cena's hometown tonight of Boston. He's from West Newbury, but he pretends like he's from Boston. Whatever. Yeah, but I'm looking forward to that. And Brock Lesnar being on the show tonight, you know. I don't know what I hope to happen other than like a debut in the U.S. Open, but I just excited to see Lesnar. I got to see him live for the first time at SummerSlam. I get to see him again in less than 2 months on Raw tonight, so that's going to be really cool. His second question, will the Lucha Dragons ever be tag team champions? At some point, yeah. I mean, they're talented enough. I feel like they can be a major part of that tag team division. We just have so much talent there right now. The Usos will be coming back. We have the Wyatt family, Roman Reigns and Dean Ambrose, the New Day, the Dudleys, the primetime players. Everyone gets a run at some point. I think that's kind of the common theme. Like, it kind of gets passed around like an STD or something like that, I guess is the phrase. Not for the belts. It's just something I made up. It's kind of stupid. I'm sorry. But everyone gets a run. The primetime players, the New Day, the Dudleys will probably win the belts at Hell in a Cell. Hopefully not the Matadors, but everyone gets the belts at some point or another. Miz and Mizdow, the Usos, the list goes on and on and on. Golden Stardust. So, yeah, I feel like they will be champions at some point. Maybe not soon, because they're still kind of at that superstars level, unfortunately, because they just have so much talent there right now. They just don't want to focus on them. But they are good enough, and I feel like they will be tag team champions, even if it's a while down the line. At Big Bird 432, his question was, if you could erase a world championship reign from one wrestler, who would it be and why? Wow, one world championship reign. Initially, I put down Khali, because obviously one of the worst world heavyweight champions of all time, you know, also including the WWE championship. Along with Jack Swagger, both reigns were such a waste. At least Swagger could work a good match. The matches with Big Show weren't really that good. The match with Orton at Extreme Rules was really good, but he was booked like shit for almost like 99% of that reign that he had back in 2010. Khali wasn't booked right, and who cares about booking when the guy's a fucking awful wrestler? He was not a good wrestler. His reign went on 2 months longer than it should have been, meaning he should have never won it at all, because his reign was 2 months. Had crappy matches, crappy feuds, didn't care about him, just a shitty performer. So I would get that title, have that never happen. Khali, a former world heavyweight champ, give me a fucking break. So I would erase that one reign, but also I just thought of this now. I would erase the first reign that Dolph Ziggler had with the world heavyweight championship from 2011, and I'll tell you why. I feel like after that they could refer to him as a former world heavyweight champion. Great for him, but it was such a lackluster reign. Ziggler himself has talked about in the past. I don't know if it was in the My Favorite Match book that I read or the maybe in like an interview or stuff. I know a lot of people have talked about it with him about it in interviews and whatever, about how he was not happy that he won his first world title in that manner. I mean, look at it. February 2011, he got the title awarded to him because Edge got fired and they vacated the belt. They gave it to Dolph Ziggler. He lost it 10 minutes later after a match with Edge. So what was the point of that? That's his first ever World Heavyweight Championship reign. It's a joke. He's a 2-time World Heavyweight Champion. So I would erase that reign and have that, that match, or the moment that when he won the belt, the night after WrestleMania 29, was still like an amazing moment regardless. But his first world title reign would have been that had that 2011 reign not happened. For so long, he's never been a World Heavyweight Champion, finally reaches and wins the big one. So I would erase either that reign, probably more so Khali's, but I just thought of the Dolph Ziggler one, so I would get rid of that one too. At Daniel Cabeza 59's got a couple questions here. First one being, which team of announcers did you enjoy more, Jim Ross and Paul Heyman, or Gorilla Monsoon and Bobby Heenan? Really good question and really tough. It took me about a couple minutes to think about this. I would go with Monsoon and not Paul Heyman. That'd be a duo. That'd be a duo for the ages. Monsoon and Heyman. I did write. Why did I write down? Oh, because Heyman and Heenan, and that's why I wrote down Heyman. Monsoon and Heenan. Sorry, they just sound so much alike. But yeah, I would go with those guys because Jim Ross and Paul Heyman were entertaining, but there's a reason why they weren't together for a long time. I know they kind of cut Heyman's run short on commentary after the Invasion angle ended. It didn't really make much sense to have him on commentary anymore. And Paul Heyman was a good commentator, but he's such a better, a much better manager, even a GM, a mouthpiece. I think he was good on commentary. Him and Jim Ross had some funny one-liners. But there's a reason. If they were such a great duo, they would have been a lot longer. They would have been together for a lot longer than they were. So I would go with Monsoon and Heenan. They just had that chemistry, that undeniable chemistry. And even Heyman and Jim Ross will tell you they enjoyed their time together, but they didn't think they were like the greatest pairing of all time, not even close. So I would go with Monsoon and Heyman. I thought Monsoon was good. The worst, I hate Vince McMahon as a commentator, the Vince McMahon Sr., or Jr. rather. I thought he was just so generic. He's like Michael Cole 10 times worse, in my opinion. So I didn't enjoy his days on commentary. Monsoon was good, and Heyman was, I wrote down Heyman, but Heenan, sorry, they just sound so much alike, was so great. One of, if not the greatest commentator of all time, right next to Jim Ross and Gordon Soley. So I would go with Monsoon and Heenan as my favorite of those two pairings between Jim Ross and Paul Heyman, and then Heenan and Monsoon. I would go with Monsoon and Heenan. His second question, in your opinion, why are the Raw ratings so low nowadays? Because WWE doesn't know how to build stars. Now I take offense, not offense, but I think it's dumb when people say that phrase. And why are you saying that if you just said it? So here's the thing. I feel like WWE has built up stars. Roman Reigns, Dean Ambrose, Seth Rollins, Rusev. I hesitate to say that because they have fresh faces on the roster. Like 90% of the roster are guys from FCW, NXT, all these new guys, right? But if they were doing so well, and they are, the former Shield guys are doing well, and Bray Wyatt, but they need more main event talent. And if they were doing better, then they wouldn't have to call upon all these old-timers and all these part-timers, The Rock, Brock Lesnar, Triple H, Sting, to come back every couple months to main event a pay-per-view. They should be able to do that by themselves. The last couple pay-per-views have been headlined by part-timers. Battleground, Brock Lesnar. SummerSlam, Brock Lesnar and Taker. Night of Champions, Sting. And then at Hell in a Cell, Lesnar and Undertaker. So, yeah, I think it's just kind of ridiculous. So, why are they so low nowadays? Because WWE the 3 hours are just so long. I know they've only gotten gradually lower and lower. I don't pay enough attention to ratings. I don't really focus on them too much. But they are important. That's what WWE sells all their advertising on. They live and die by those ratings. Unfortunately, that's just the way it is. Even in 2015, although people are watching online and the next day and on Netflix and Hulu and on every other possible platform, WWE still puts a lot of stock in those ratings. They still mean something to them. And they should, because that's where all their advertising comes from, unfortunately. But that's just the way it works in 2015, unfortunately. But yeah, they just haven't built enough stars. They need more star power, and they need to continue to build more young stars and have fans take them seriously and have them become draws. I feel like, now in 2015, I've talked about this before, that WWE is the draw. Like, I'm a perfect example. I'm not going to Raw tonight like, I bought a ticket for Brock Lesnar. That was part of the reason, because I thought Brock Lesnar was going to be there when I bought my tickets a while ago. But I'm going to go because it's a WWE show. I feel like even though John Cena might be the one exception, a lot of people are just going to the show because it's WWE. What am I thinking of? Like, oh, Seth Rollins is in town. Dean Ambrose, Roman Reigns, they're in town tonight. Let's go to the show. Big Show's in town tonight. You know, he's never been... He's not a spectacle, in my opinion. Big Show does not put butts in the seats in 2015. Let me tell you that much. Anyway, that's my philosophy. Love Paul White. Not a huge Big Show fan. I digress. But I feel like the name WWE sells more tickets than any one wrestler ever will. Because John Cena is the only one that gets enough media exposure where people will recognize him and buy the show for him, along with, all the other part-timers. But on the active roster, John Cena is the only guy that people are like, oh, John Cena's going to be there tonight. Let's buy a ticket. More often than not, 90% of the time in 2015, people just buy tickets to shows because they see the WWE label. It's not because they see Hulk Hogan on the card or Bruno Sammartino or Stone Cold. It's all about WWE. For better or for worse, that's the way it is, in my opinion. That's part of the problem. It's only a minuscule part of the problem that WWE, in a larger picture, what they're facing right now with the low ratings. They need to invest more time in the younger stars, stop relying as much on the old-time guys. It's great when we see them every once in a while, but to bring them in all the time and sell pay-per-views on them every single month, WrestleMania is one thing. Every month for the B-Show pay-per-views is a completely another thing. That's where they really start to run into some deep shit. And I feel like just because, compared to 15 years ago, I'm not saying, oh, if you go PG-14, the rating will be much higher. That's not the case, I don't feel like. I feel like it was the competition back in the late 90s that made it what it was. And the drive and the hunger to be better than the opposition was what made WWE so exciting. And the ratings were so much higher because people were wanting to see what they would do to one-up the other company. TNA is no threat. No other wrestling organization is a threat to WWE. Not even close. So that's why WWE is so complacent, and they won't really try anything new. They'll just stick to the same old formula, and that's why people just don't tune in. Did the low ratings on Raw, that's why. It's the same thing more often than not every single week. I love wrestling. I try to pick out the positives, but with the 3 hours every single week and the same formula, for the most part, they've been trying to switch it up as of late. But that's why, because people just know what's going to happen, so they don't bother tuning in. They'll read the results the next day, and until something big happens on Raw, like, oh shit, it's a must-see program right now, then they'll start tuning in more regularly, and the ratings will go up. That's the way that I see it anyway. Final two questions from @DanielCabeza59. Do you think Kane going for the WWE Championship means that WWE Creative still doesn't believe in the young guys? Going exactly back to what I just said before about how WWE relies too much on the part-timers. Now, I don't have a problem with Kane and Rollins at Hell in a Cell. It's not like it's, Taker and Lesnar where it's two part-timers facing off in the main event of a B pay-per-view, which I think is awesome. But again, WWE needs to invest that same effort and same storyline support into their active guys. You know what I mean? Like, they told such a great story with Taker and Lesnar. And so they have with Rollins and Kane. This feud has been going on since right after WrestleMania. When Kane was like, when Rollins said after WrestleMania, he's like, at WrestleMania, I won the WWE World Heavyweight Championship. At WrestleMania, Big Show won the Honor the Giant Memorial Battle Royal. At WrestleMania, Kane was there. And it was so funny. That kind of planted the seeds for what was to come with Kane in the Rollins feud. And that was 6 months ago. So I think they're doing a great job of, I've been teasing this feud. I would have done it months ago, but they've been doing a good job with Rollins and Kane and fleshing it out and giving it some reason for people to care for the most part. But yeah, I feel like they definitely do need to build younger stars. If, Roman Reigns, Dean Ambrose, Bray Wyatt, Rusev, Dolph Ziggler, Cesaro, I can go on and on and on. If they were red hot right now, if they had money written all over them, and a lot of them do, but if the WWE was investing as much into them as they were into Taker and Lesnar and all these other guys, they wouldn't have to put Kane in the main event. They would have all these other young guys gunning for the gold, much like in the Attitude Era in the early 2000s. They didn't have the same people on top all the time because they had a lot of hungry people they were investing in. They kind of lost that art of telling a good story, I feel like, in 2015. So that's kind of something they need to work on. That's not something that will change overnight, but over time, if they start to invest more and more in characters, and they have in the last couple of years, but they need to do so. They need to do more. They need to do that more so in order to have fans really invest in these characters and care about them, so they can get to where they belong at the main event level. And his final question: who had a better heel run, Edge from 2006 to 2008, or Chris Jericho from 2008 to 2010? Again, really, really tough question because I loved both heel runs, and I put Jericho here just because 2008 was his year, and the subsequent 2 years were also very entertaining, and his feuds with, being a part of Jericho, his feuds with Rey Mysterio and everyone else that he took on in the next couple of years from 2010 and Edge as well in 2010. That was his year. 08 was his peak of his heel run. With Edge, same thing. I feel like his peak year was 06, that whole feud with John Cena. But he had obviously some great time as a heel in 07 and 08 as well. And I think I put down Jericho because he had more memorable feuds with guys like Rey Mysterio and Shawn Michaels. Edge, also the case. I'm not saying it's a complete like, oh, Jericho's here, Edge is down here. With Edge, he had a lot of great feuds with Batista, with Undertaker, with Triple H for a time in 08, but I feel like Jericho as a heel had more monumental, memorable feuds. You could probably name more Jericho heel feuds from that time, from 08 to 2010, than you can Edge feuds, or at least that were really, really good. Again, it's really hard. A lot of people will tell you Edge, a lot of people will tell you Jericho. For me, maybe it's because I got that Jericho poster up right there and I'm a Jericho fan, but Edge comes so close. You can really say one or the other and you would not be wrong, like I said earlier, but just because of that one Shawn Michaels feud, that being one of, if not the greatest feud of all time, just the way that it was booked, the way that it was done, the story they told, I would go with Jericho, but Edge is like, this is Jericho, Edge is like right here, like right there. So, I mean, it looks like it's even, but it's not. Edge is like a half a centimeter down, so I would go with Jericho in that case. But that's going to do it for today's edition of Hashtag Ask You Sam, episode number 99. Like I said, guys, next week, the big 100. I don't know if we're going to do anything special, like a huge, like a 2-hour show. I highly doubt it. I mean, I don't have enough time as it is to film a 1-hour show. I know this was a lot shorter, not a lot, but significantly shorter this week. I didn't ask for any Facebook questions. There was a lack of Facebook questions in this video because I was so busy over the weekend. I didn't really have enough time to put up the post. But next week, though, I will answer as many questions as possible, as I always do. So if you want to send in any questions, be sure to do so by, tweeting me on Twitter with the hashtag AskGSM at WrestleRant on the Twitter. On Facebook at facebook.com/Graham.GSM.Matthews. And last but not least, be sure to leave a comment on this very video. I'll be sure to include your comment in next week's video and include your question in next week's huge milestone episode number 100. Like I said before, maybe I was thinking of doing answering 100 questions, but it would have to be like speed round. I would not be able to go as in depth as I have with these questions. I would have to go really, really quick, and maybe we can do something like that. So, I mean, there's really no limit on how many questions you can ask. I've had people send in one question. I've had people ask, 10 questions. Maybe not 10. I've had people send in 7 or 8, which is fine. Sometimes if I can't answer them all, I'll either answer some more quickly than others, or I'll just leave them for the next episode. If it comes down to that, that's exactly what we'll do. But like I said, guys, as I always say, I know you're probably sick of hearing me say it all the time, but thank you for your incredible support. You guys are the greatest. Continue to like, comment, share, and subscribe. And new videos go up every single day. Enjoy Raw tonight. As I said, I will be there tonight in the TD Garden in Boston, live and in person, wearing my Dean Ambrose shirt. So if you're there and in person, if you're going to be at the show, tweet me on the Twitter at WrestleRant. Hopefully we can chill out, we can cross paths, we can shoot the shit on WWE and all things wrestling and all that other kind of cool stuff. Would love to meet you guys and exchange words with you, exchange some greetings, salutations, or whatever. But like I said, I'm looking forward to Raw tonight. Should be a very exciting show. So on that note, guys, once again, happy October. Enjoy the rest of your week. I'm Graham GSM Matthews, and I'll catch you guys down the road.